Jenny, this is Ayako Yoshida.
Oh, Aya.
Hi.
We were just talking about you.
Oh, okay.
So I wonder if you might want to say a word or two about the project, the work that you were able to do.
A word or
The
two?
C.A.R.E. award.
Good morning, everyone. I translated this catalog. Nancy asked me, and thank you, Nancy, for asking me, and the little Aratani C.A.R.E for funding it, and Little Tokyo for Historical Society for getting the grant. And thank you, Dorothy, for getting that, working on the grant, and Michael Okamoto for
Okamura.
Okamura, I'm sorry.
Hey.
Michael Okamura for
You're welcome.
thank you. And so, what would you like me to say just about the? So, I think I met Nancy when I was working at LA County Museum of Art, and I'm Japanese, and so I speak Japanese and I read and write Japanese. So I was when I was at LACMA, I was very lucky to have a mentor, Dr. Eileen Ford, who was a curator of American art, and she knew that there was a lot of Japanese and Japanese American artists in the collection, but very people was able to read the material and do anything with it. And so she said, well, Aya, you can read and write Japanese, and so why don't you research the collection? Because we don't have any curators who are doing that right now. And so, and when I was initially hired to work on Made in California, the exhibition, Centennial exhibition back in 2000, and I found out that LACMA owns the entire Kanemitsu's prints, every print that he did, and but they've never shown it. And so I said to Sharon Goodman, who was the curator at the time in Prints and Drawings, and I said, well, he should be in the show, the Made in California show. And so we had a couple prints, I think, in Made in California Centennial show, and those prints are actually in the San Francisco show right now at LACMA, at LA County Museum. It's a very good show, and it was very nice. The current curator of Prints and Drawings, who is Leslie Jones, and the Japanese art curator Hollis, I think they made sure that he was in the show. And so those prints are in the show if you like to see his work. And so I did an installation of Matsumi Kanemitsu's, his print installation. LACMA owns one original work on sumi paper, which is also in the San Francisco show right now, and his entire lithographs. And so I did installation of that at LACMA, of the collection, the LACMA collection, back in 2008. And that was a good way to get people to see his work. And that LACMA owned his works. And a lot of people didn't know about his work, so that was good. And a lot of curators didn't know that LACMA owned the works by Kanemitsu. So it was a good way for, I guess, everyone to find out about his work. The unfortunate thing was that I think back in the 1960s, when LACMA first opened, and there was interest in Japanese American, I think there was more acknowledgement. And I think it's sort of, the hard thing I think to kind of do is that when the artist dies, it's hard to keep the momentum going and to make sure that his work is shown. And you really, like with museums, you have to keep the curators, aware and interested. And so you have to keep pushing them and say, well, he has to be in the show. He has to be in the show, and keep reminding them. And when younger artists come in, if they don't grow up learning about the artist, they don't know. And then, so they get forgotten. And so we have to keep, So as an artist, as an art curator who didn't know about Kanemitsu until I came, I was educated at Barnard College in Columbia University, so I didn't know about any Japanese American artists. And so I didn't find out about it till I came to LACMA and did the research and for the Centennial Show made in California. And so I think when we learn about the artists, I think we just have to keep reminding curators and other people that, that there is this artist, and I think Kanemitsu was very important in terms as a printmaker. I learned about Kanemitsu a lot from Jun Wing, who was the founder of Tamarind Lithography. And she was very driven to make lithography as a fine art in America. He was, because lithography was considered like cheap posters back in the 20th century, but Jun wanted to make it as an artwork. And Mike Kanemitsu had a big part in that. Jun Wing got money from the Ford Foundation. And she invited Mike Kanemitsu from New York to be the artist to work on lithography, and so she was very pivotal in getting Kanemitsu involved, and Kanemitsu was very important in showing how lithography could be a fine art, and so I find him to be a very important artist in that sense, in bringing lithography as an artwork. So, thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Where can people get the book?
The book? I don't know. Ask Nancy. I got this copy from Nancy. So I don't know how many copies are available. Maybe we can get another funding so that this would be bilingual. Because right now, this catalog, this was a show in the 90s, which Nancy made it happen in Japan as his memorial show, right? And so this is only in Japanese. Some of it is in English, but so maybe we can get funding and republish it as a bilingual, because I did all the English, so now it can be read in both languages. So it would be nice so that it can be read.
I was supposed to get that main article translated a long time ago.
In the 90s.
Yeah, and so it took this long to actually get it done. And it's also very difficult to find a good translator, because you have to find somebody that is knowledgeable about both languages, but also about the subject matter. So art history and what's going on in the world, all of that makes a difference in how you translate something. I helped Aya do the editing after she did the main translation. It took us a long time. It was very difficult, and so you have to do a lot of research. So that was a good thing that we did that, but it was also a lot of work, and it takes a lot of research. And Aya did so much research. The other thing that Aya and we were on a panel. Crystal Hauser and Julianne was on the panel at UC San Diego. And it was about how institutions do not show artists of color or artists in their collection. And so we wanted to know, well, why is that? And I think that's more relevant even today than it was back then. But it is interesting, because these institutions have work by Japanese American artists or black or brown artists in their collections, but it doesn't get shown. So I just came back from Baltimore. They had all of Kanemitsu's early drawings, and they had never been shown. And they had like over 130 or some odd pieces. And it was a really interesting show, because there was stuff that I had never seen or thought existed. he did images of camp and the atomic bomb because he was from Hiroshima. So those images were just really so fascinating for me. And then he had Japanese written in these little drawings, and they had magnifying glasses so you could like look at the little details. He was a really great draftsman. But the things in Japanese, the little bits that I got translated, it was like his comment about the bomb and about Hiroshima and the destruction. And then there was one that had an artist studio, drawing of an artist studio in the background. It was like his sort of explanation of art and life and how he feels we need to live in peace and, you know, to live our lives creatively and lovingly. It was very fascinating. So if any of you get out to Baltimore, go see that show. It'll be up till October, but I'm going to ask and see if we can't get either a catalog or a video to something, because it's a really worthwhile show, especially for all of us here to see.
So there's no catalog?
There's no catalogs.
Because I believe that's one thing that's a problem that, so when I was doing Kanemitsu's research, Kanemitsu is shown at MoMA, at Museum of Modern Art, but it's not documented. So I don't know what was like, so you can find history that Kanemitsu showed in certain shows, but he doesn't appear, his picture doesn't appear. There's no picture of the gallery with his work on it. So it's hard to tell, and that happens a lot. So it's really hard to, for people like me who were not around to see that show in the 60s to know, well, actually what was shown, and he was shown next to which artist, and how did the room look like, and there's no documentation of that. And so it's really important, like the Baltimore show, it's important that the catalog or documentation of the galleries exist, because when we're all gone, we get, people in the future can see, okay, this was how it was shown, or which work was shown, or because it reflects the mentality of 2020, and even how we talk about the show today, because people won't see it the same way, 50 years from now. Or, a lot of people criticize about racism, this and that, but it's important to understand the context of that period and why it was shown, who curated it, how was it displayed, because it tells about that period. I mean, historically, I think it's important to understand that too. And it's a shame that, because I wanted to see, okay, MoMA showed Kanemitsu, but how did that room look like? Because you also know who he was friends with, his relationship with the curator, and then you like to see, okay, so how was he displayed? And a lot of his early stuff is not documented. And one problem with this was the way we worked was great because you knew him personally. I did not know him personally. I only knew June, who talked about him, and you talked about him. And that was important to how we finished the translation. And I also wanted to keep the style of the essayists, because there are like 4 essays I translated, and everyone has different writing style. And I wanted to keep that writing style alive. And there's nuances to writing. So, everybody writes differently. Some people are more friendly, some people are more academic, so if you don't understand Japanese, that gets lost in translation. But I wanted to keep that alive, and then I wanted to, some of the artists didn't know him personally, or knew him met him once or twice. So how Nancy knew Kanemitsu was very important to me too, so that I could really understand the text. And so I think we did a good job. I think the English version is very good. Yeah. And so it would be good if people could read
Thank you.
in English and Japanese.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I said more than 2 words.
No, it's okay. Fabulous, thanks.